How did people socialize in 19th century America? Well, it sort of seems like everyone was as awkward as a teenager at a high school dance. I'm reading The Domestic Manners of the Americans by Frances Trollope each day and giving you the highlights. This is day 5, let's get into it. So at this point in the book, Frances has moved from England to Cincinnati, and one of her key takeaways is that Americans have a startling lack of a social life. Well, that's not completely true. I should say that there's one weird way that Americans socialize with each other. Frances says that it's considered rude to lock your doors at night, and people will just randomly walk into her house and start a conversation. Except sometimes they don't even do that. She says the typical encounter would be some acquaintance, like a milkman, coming in, saying hello, and then just sitting down at the nearest chair for an hour without talking before getting up and saying, "Well, I must be going." She says she always felt inclined to talk to these people, but the conversations really didn't sound that interesting. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. What I really want to get into is the evenings out. If we can trust Frances, they sounded strangely similar to middle school dances. For one thing, she says the women and men always gathered together at opposite ends of the room. Sometimes someone will start playing a piano, which will bring people together for dancing, but not always. However, this only happens if the gathering spot only has one room. If there are 2 rooms, the men go into one and the women go into another. Frances says the men talk about things like elections and the price of produce, and they're constantly spitting. That's actually something that she complains about a lot, the prevalence of chewing tobacco and how often the men are spitting it out around her. She says that it happens so much that it's impossible to stop the tobacco juice from getting on her dress, which I think we can all agree is a step too far. But anyway, the women's conversation revolves around some sermon they've heard or a pill they've tried or each other's dresses. Not really something that strikes Frances's refined British taste. Billiards and card playing are illegal in Cincinnati, so the amusements are a bit limited. In general, only the unmarried hang out together, while most married couples gather in groups of their own gender. It doesn't really sound like a good time, and Frances gets very annoyed by it throughout her stay in Cincinnati. That's all I've got in this topic. I'm going to be getting more into life in 19th century America in future episodes. I hope you'll stick around.